the only person on the planet that is starring in 2 Star Wars movies coming out in the next 6 months, Mr. Joonas Suotamo. And the only guy here taller than me.
Or on stage Chewbacca, one of them.
How you guys doing today? The man huge. He's so handsome too.
Stop it.
Yeah, but which one? One of the Captain Veers.
So how are you gentlemen doing today?
One of the captains for Dr.
Pretty good so far.
I'm doing so great. It's lovely to see you all. There's more of you than I expected, but I guess it's thanks to this guy right here sitting next to me.
So, no, he's the new Chewbacca, and so I don't know him. I only knew the old one, Peter Mayhew, who is still with us, by the way. But he, well, yes, that's important to say that. He's not replacing a dead person. Which you'll have to do with me quite soon. Yeah, he was here on the stage 2 years ago. He was just here last year or 2 years ago. Peter was. Yeah. Nice man. Oh, he's a great guy. So I thought I'd start out with just how'd you guys get into acting? So Julian, I'll ask you first. What got you starting in theater and movies and so forth? How long have you got? We have technically 45 minutes, but he might. How did I start acting? Is that the question? How'd you get into acting? Yeah. Well, I was at school, like all of us were, and I had no idea I was going to be an actor until I was about 15, when I went to a school in the south of London, which had been founded by one of Shakespeare's great actors, who was called, it doesn't matter what it is, he does, Rhode, his name was, and he founded a school for poor boys and it happened that a young English master had just arrived there from Oxford University, who was crazy about Shakespeare, and he decided to revive the idea of doing Shakespeare productions in the school. And he started with a play called Julius Caesar, which many of you will have heard of. Probably a lot of you will have seen it. And me, because I was good at something called reading out loud, because my little brother needed to be read to every day, I got the part of Mark Antony, which is the most fantastic part, and really showy, and I couldn't believe it, and I didn't know what I was, well, I did know what I was doing, but it's so exciting. And the next term we did a Gilbert and Sullivan opera. Do you ever have those here? Those operettas. And I played the comic lead in one of them, who had a famous patter song. Very, you had to use your mouth a lot for it. And I came home after that, having probably for the only time in my life, knew what it was to hold an audience in the palm of my hand. And I said, I want to do this. And they, instead of, as in those days, it was disgraceful to be an actor, you didn't do that, rogue and vagabond, good God, no. So they fell on my neck with gratitude because they had a 15-year-old who knew what he wanted to do, which you will admit is a problem these days. So many kids come out of school at 17, 18 with no idea what they want to do. Anyway, so that started me off. I went to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art to study, and then I started off, and here I am, sitting in, where is it? Oh, Providence, yes. Providence, in extremely comfortable chairs. These are great chairs. Yes, I think I might have a little doze while he answers the question. Okay, so Joonas?
How did I get into suit acting, is the question for me?
No, come on, you're still,
No, I did some high school plays when I was in high school, and I played a reporter, and everybody laughed when I said something, and I loved that feeling. And when I went to college, I went to the acting program. I talked to the people there, and they said, "You're too tall to become an actor. There won't be any roles for you." Aha! There is one, and I got it. I don't have that person's email, but I would certainly love to send her. Hey, look at me now. No, just kidding. But yeah, that's the way how I became Chewbacca was, of course, I worked alongside Peter Mayhew, who is a great mentor, a great friend, and I was cast as his body double for Force Awakens because he couldn't do all the scenes in that movie. And they found me through the Basketball Association of Finland, who because I played in the youth national team when I was a kid, and thankfully they called them and asked, "Do you have any 7-footers with blue eyes?" And one guy remembered, "Hey, there was this guy. He was tall. He could shoot the mid-range jumper. I think he could act. Let's call him." And
does he get 10%?
So not allowed to answer that. So they called me and they asked me, "Do I want to be in a big budget Hollywood film?" And I said, "Yeah." And then we started sending tapes, and first it was a photo, a headshot, and then it was some film that I taped with my girlfriend in my old high school. I asked permission to use the gym and stripped down to my shorts and played a caveman and hoped to God nobody came in, because it would have been awkward.
Go on, do it now.
At the time I was substitute teaching girls gymnastics, so that would have been inappropriate in every way. I had a reputation to uphold, so I couldn't be mixed in with any of this. So basically, then it happened. It was a blessing, and I'm very glad to now have. I've shot 3 movies now. We shot The Last Jedi last year, and this year we finished the Solo film, which tells the story of the young Han Solo. And I can't wait for the next 6 months when these movies are going to come out. So great.
I was saying, as you came out, you're the only person in the world who's ever had starred in 2 Star Wars movies that are coming out in a 6-month period. That's pretty cool.
It's amazing. Wow, I can't believe it either. Thank God Wookiees live up to 400 years, because it wouldn't be possible otherwise.
For the record, Chewbacca's father, Achitug, is 500. Just let you know. Achitug, yeah.
But I read from the internet that it was...
Anyway, so Mr. Glover, I gotta ask you a little bit outside of Star Wars, but what was it like working on Indiana Jones as Donovan?
Well, it was pretty unique, wasn't it? Wouldn't it be? You got those 2 fantastic actors. You've got all the money in the world that they're spending on the movie. All the other actors are tremendously good too. You've got the most amazing part. A chap who doesn't seem to be a villain at the beginning and then turns out, I know I'll talk about that. And we've got Steven Spielberg. What more do you want, frankly? And 3 months abroad, thank you very much. And enough money. Wow, that's important, the money's going down now these days for ordinary people like us. The big stars, of course, get very big money, and I deserve it. But anyway, that's another consideration. I'll tell you, when the people say I was such a villain in Indiana Jones, now you think about this, what I'm going to say. What would you do for the secret of eternal life? You don't have to answer me. The number of people you would betray and walk over and get rid of if they were in your way, if you had that secret ahead of you. And I'm not commending what Indiana Jones, what Walter Donovan did. I don't commend it at all as a rule of life. But just think about what you would do. So that might actually let him a bit off the hook in your morality area. I love doing that film. I love the bloke. And there's a nice little thing about my wife actually plays my wife in it. I don't know if you knew that. In my very first scene in the cocktail, when I'm having cocktails, and she comes through just very briefly. She's in it because she's quite a well-known actress in England. Because she said, "Oh, I'd love to be in that. I want to meet Spielberg and Harrison." So I managed to wangle her getting into it, and so that was very nice. She's a very lovely young woman, so that was all right. And when the film finished, it was such a small part, it was not a very good credit for her. So she said, "I don't really want to be credited at all, really." So they solved the problem, but next time if you ever see the film again, watch the billing when it comes up at the end. It comes out Walter Donovan, Julian Glover, Mrs. Donovan, Mrs. Glover. And that's her billing, which is rather terrific. And there's another little story about that I just done. I don't know how well you know the film, but there's a long sequence in the desert, in the Spanish desert, and the tank and all that stuff, where I got to do the thing I'd always wanted to do all my life, which was to be like Rommel in the war, standing in a tank going. I got to do that. Anyway, at the end of that sequence, it was a very heavy day, but a very good day, a very productive day. Spielberg, Stephen came to me and said, "You know, Julian, your American accent is so good, you'll never stop working in American movies." I've never made one since. That'll do for that.
Oh, that's so. Joonas, you were talking earlier about playing basketball and stuff. I was wondering if being an athlete and working as a professional athletic person, how did that help prepare you for the role of Chewbacca, which is kind of a physical role, especially in Force Awakens. He had some serious jumping and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think once the production learned that I had been an athlete in previous life, I think somehow the writers, the production, somehow every decision that you make, what do you want Chewbacca to do in this film and that film, it's influenced that, and they've asked me to do more demanding things physically, on top of staying in that hot piece of suit for 10 hours a day. Which it has been. I don't know if anyone who doesn't have an athletic background could do this role. I don't know how. I'm amazed how Peter did it back in the day, and because it's such a demanding thing. So I'm very thankful for that. I've been torturing myself on the basketball courts and training gyms all my life because
you never get to take the costume off during the day. Not easy.
I have to talk to so many people for the permission to go to the bathroom. During the hectic days, if it's a hectic day, I have to talk to so many people, so I just stop drinking water and don't bother, because I don't want to go through the hassle of, oh, Mr. So-and-so, could I please use the bathroom? Oh, here he is complaining again. I don't want to be that guy. So I got severely dehydrated when we were filming Solo. We were outside in the mountains.
Outside mountains, yeah. Go on.
Yeah.
Go on. Let's get it.
Oh, I realized what I did there. I'm just gonna stop it there, okay? No, but yeah, it's important to drink water because otherwise you get dehydrated. So, lesson learned. It's a good thing that these things can also work as a, information packages. You get valuable information from these things. It's not just the show of entertainment, but also tips for survival.
I'm surprised they didn't have a little gadget that you could open and use. I remember there was a great actor in London, in England, called John Gielgud, great Shakespearean actor. And thank you. And he was playing King Lear, and they did it Japanese. It was a very interesting production called the Kabuki Lear, and of course they had the body thing on, and a wig on top of that, and the costume on top of that. And he said, the only problem with playing this part is I have to take off my wig to have a pee. So I think he'd know how you felt.
I did ask for a flap, in the suit. I did ask for a hole, but they never listened to me. I mean, it's like I have no, say in these things. But thankfully, it's such a intricate piece of hair work that the suit is that I'm too scared of ruining the suit. So I always take it off before I go to the bathroom. Is this what you wanted to know? I forget the question.
You were telling us about the dry mountains that are in the Han Solo movie. And I think you were going to give some more.
Someone's calling me from Disney. No, just kidding. But I'm going to stop it there. But
so what was since we're talking about that, what's the process from start to finish? How long does it take? to get into Chewbacca?
Anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, I think. But sometimes if they have to add gadgets and props department has to bring in the guns and whatever, it can take 2 hours but usually it takes 1 hour. Putting on the makeup, getting into the cat suit, walking to set, jumping into the suit, waiting around. It takes about an hour. So I never get bored though.
Did you have a lot of glue and things on your face? Did they stick it onto you?
They have to, if it's a close-up of the Chewbacca face, they have to add this extra piece of hair in order to hide because the mask is just a mask, full of hair. They punched in each individual piece of hair. You can't do it, there's no shortcut. Tip for all you cosplayers out there, you have to do it hair by hair. And they sometimes add some piece of yak hair just underneath my eyes, so that it would hide the line that's created from the mask. It's
complex.
Okay, Mr. Glover, I thought I'd ask you, when I called you out here, interesting theory. Grand Maester Pycelle from Game of Thrones. Do you feel that he's a villain? Is he a good guy? Is he a villain, or is he neutral?
Well, it depends how you look at him, doesn't it? A lot of people think he's a bad guy. I simply see him as someone who's a survivor, and he's learned how to survive. And he pretends to be one thing, and he's actually another, which brings me to the reason I left the series. Okay, I've been on it for a very long time, and he started off quite well, and we decided on this idea of having that he was actually much more vigorous than you thought he was. You may remember that scene when I'm with that beautiful girl, and she goes out, and I stand up to my full height and do my exercises and go out again like that, so we know he's pretending. So we decided on that course, which was a very good one. Then they didn't really follow it up very well, and it got to the point where every scene I was in, I was being ticked off by Cersei, that ghastly woman. And, oh God, she's such a nice girl too, the actress. Oh God, the character is so ghastly. Anyway, I went to I had a fantastic scene, which some of you may have seen on those shows where you get off takes and things like that. I had a wonderful scene with Tywin on the beach when I come down with some message, and he says, "What are you up to?" I can tell you're pretending, and so I realised he's realised what I am, and so I stand to my full height, and I explain that the reason I'm doing it is survival. I don't want to die like everybody else does. I want to die in my bed and be acknowledged for what I've done for the country. And he says, "Okay." It's a lovely scene on a beach. He's fishing. I think it's a very good scene. And so from that minute on, you know that the audience is reminded that he's actually two things. Well, they cut the scene out of it. You might have seen it, and if you have seen it, you'll see it is a very good scene, and absolutely brings me right up to date in the series. In series 5 this was. And they cut it. I was absolutely livid. I said, "Why do you cut that scene of all scenes? I know I'm not a major character in it, but for God's sake, well, it was time, I'm sorry. It'd probably appear later in another episode." Of course, it never did. So I said, "I don't want to do series 6. And they said, "You don't want to do series 6? I said, "No, I'm fed up with sitting around just with that woman putting me down all the time, me saying what, and then having to go away with my thumb in my mouth." And they said, "Well, you've got to stay for series 6. I said, "No, I don't." "Well, we've got this wonderful scene for you." "Oh, have you? Can I see that scene?" "Oh, no, you know, we're secret." "It is secret, what you do. In Star Wars, the next script is secret. You're not allowed to tell anybody anything." I said, "Well, if it's secret, that's fine. You keep it to yourself then. I'm off." And so they said, "Well, what will you do?" I said, "I want to see the scene." So would you believe a motorbike came round to my house with a box in the back with a key on the box, and then a chap got out, opened the box and brought out the scene, and he stayed with me while I read it. Julian Glover written all over it so nobody else could use it. And he waited until I gave it back to him so that the rest of the world wouldn't hear this fantastic thing that was going to happen. And I gave it back to him, and it was my death scene, which is a very good scene. I said, so I phoned my agent and said, it's a good scene. I still want to finish the series, finishing the series. This is my death scene, so I will finish. It's very, very good indeed, and I will do it for 3 times the money. 10 minutes later, the phone rang and they agreed. Now, so it just shows if you don't want something, you'll usually get it. And I have to say in justification, that you probably don't know this, but Game of Thrones is a brilliant series that it is, and I'm really thrilled to have been in it, and so is everybody. It is absolutely superb, unique, but the money was very bad for us underlings. And so I got my last screw of the whatever it is, turn of the screw before I left, and I did that scene well, and they were pleased with me, so I left well. But I have to say, I'm now very pleased to be out of it, and I now enjoy watching it without worrying about how bad I'm going to be.
So what you're saying is Maester Pycelle's a villain. I'm glad somebody laughed at that.
No, I know that was. You're absolutely right. That was the question. Well, I don't think he was. I think he was a survivor. He knew which side to back. He knew how to go through the. You notice he wasn't at all. No one was horrible to him while he was alive. It was another of Cersei's ghastly plots to get rid of everyone. He got rid of everybody in that episode, if you remember. That house blew up. At least I wasn't in the house that blew up. I didn't get that. I got a proper dramatic death, which was excellent. I think he was simply a survivor and knew how to survive. He was 104 years old, for God's sake, and so he didn't do badly, did he? But a lot of people think he was horrible. I don't give a damn. I think he's all right.
So Joonas, if you could be any other Star Wars character, other than Chewbacca, regardless of height, race, age, whatever, who do you think you'd like to be?
I'd love to be an X-Wing pilot, just the general, just very, very, how do you say, just a run-of-the-mill X-Wing pilot, you know, gold leader, standing by. You know, I'd love to say that in a film. Because they're casting like all these people, like the first AD and all these crew members. Why can't they cast me to be an X-Wing pilot? You know? No, I'm not really. I don't want to ruin the film because
They did the same thing with like Anthony Daniels. They had him, you know, he's C-3PO. They had him play in other characters. You couldn't tell C-3PO because he's.
Very true, very true. I'll take this up to the management.
You know, I was talking to Spencer Wilding, who plays Darth Vader in Rogue One, and I'd asked him a similar question, and then that question blended into another question: was if Darth Vader could fight anybody, who would you want to fight? He'd like, I'd like to kill Chewbacca. He said that, and I wanted to get your rebuttal on that.
It's on. I'm gonna leave his arms alone and tear off his helmet. And then try to take his head off.
I'm gonna write this down.
You know.
So Julian, I wanted to. You obviously had a very, very long, successful career in Hollywood, but I'm going to ask you about my favorite character of yours, and that's General Maximilian Veers. And I was wondering, no applause for General Veers? What the? Woo! It's a Star Wars panel.
No, I know why you didn't applaud. I know why you didn't.
Why not? Why do you think they didn't applaud?
Well, because he was a small part in the film.
He destroyed the shield generator on Hoth.
He did do that. He did. But you can't say he changed the course of history. It was a nice part, but not one you could really delve into. Indiana Jones was a character I really loved to play because he was a clever man. But General Veers is a good, responsible, straight, loyal officer who knows how to do it. And that's what I played, absolutely straight, with my own opinions about things, but no opinions that would destroy the status quo. and someone who is used to winning battles, and so he does win battles. It was arguable, of course, whether he was killed or not. And in fact, there was a small scene for me in the next film as General Veers, but I wasn't free to do it, and so it was such a small scene, they decided to cut the scene altogether anyway, so, which was a pity, but there you go. I just saw him as I know he was on the wrong side as far as you're concerned, but as far as he was concerned, he was fighting for what he believed in, and like a good Nazi soldier, or German soldier during the Second World War, who was an ordinary man like you or me, who was conscripted, and so you fight for your country, don't you? You fight for, that's how I saw him, as a very, very well-disciplined, good man who fought for his country, and that seemed to work. Because it didn't get applause because he's a nice person, in my opinion. You only get applause when you play villains. Or Chewbacca.
I always thought he was the most successful. I'm an Imperial guy. I like the Empire myself.
Talking of the Empire, I have to say that I've written nothing to do with me being in it at all, for reasons I've just stated. But I think that The Empire Strikes Back is the finest of the first three films. In that film, all the elements which have been sown and began to be explored in the first film were properly explored in Empire Strikes Back, and it all paid off in part two, which enabled it to be part three to also be a great success. And I was, for that reason alone, I was very proud. I still am very proud to have been in that particular film.
I think you did a great job. If you look at the history of the characters in the Empire, you got your Vader, your Palpatine, Tarkin, Mahdi, Krennic, Piet, a whole list of them. They all failed at what they were doing, and they all died. You're the only one who accomplished his mission and invaded that base. So
he did accomplish his mission, yes.
Cheers to you.
But he might have been killed. Well, we all get killed, don't we?
Okay, we're gonna open it up to the audience. I know she's got a question.
Can I say I'm very deaf, so if I don't catch the question, I'll turn to one of these two gentlemen and ask them to translate it into what I can hear. Is that okay?
I'll repeat it for you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for being here. My question is for Joonas, for Chewbacca. I was curious, suit acting is somewhat different. Could you tell me, or perhaps even demonstrate, what a warm-up looks like for you before you go on set? Vocal warm-up? Do you stretch? How does that work in a suit?
No, just push-ups, okay? You start by doing a set of 10s, and then you can, no, just kidding. It's, for me, it's mainly, it depends on the scene. If I have to do a stunt scene, of course, then I warm up like with the stunt coordinators, assistants, like any other athlete would, because you don't want to break anything. But for a scene that involves walking in a Chewie like way, I usually have to tune in because I walk like this normally. This is me walking, doesn't look like Chewie. But when I'm in the Chewie suit, I have to walk like this. That's a very different guy. But you can guess which one of those guys is more likable and gets more hugs from girls. So that's why I do what I do. My fiance wouldn't like that. By the way, we're expecting a child in February. And it's a boy! Yeah, but that's basically it. It requires tuning in to the character because I'm playing a character that was started off with by great Peter Mayhew, and now I have to make it. I have to find new things from the character in order to fit the scenes that are in these great new movies. because I can't just look back into what Peter did. There are things that I must create and find and discover, like all actors have to discover. How would Chewie react if a rock fell on his friend, or something? I have to find those things. So hopefully that answers the question.
Well, presumably also
very
the
specific
directors and the writers, as you said earlier, because you're young and very active and very fit, they will use that, won't they, for different things that Peter couldn't do. And so that will make him a different Chewbacca, which is much more interesting, rather than just copy, to put your own things, and that's obviously what you're doing. Yeah.
That's what I try to do. Thank you very much. No. I meant that's a great to point out. Yeah, that's what I love to do. And the greatest compliment that I've received, those are the ones that say, great job bringing in your version of Chewie, because I can never be, the exact same thing. And I look with great scrutiny. Always, I go to the monitors when we shoot and look if how well did I do. And sometimes I'm aiming to be exactly like Peter was in the original trilogies, but sometimes I have to be something else because it won't fit the shot. It won't.
It would fit the shot because you're good enough at being Peter. It would fit it, but you're one better because you're young and you're active, you're virile and strong and well, as we can see.
Well, thank you. Can you do that Chewbacca again? That was great.
The walk?
No, the.
Oh, so I do.
That was great. I was quite impressed. So we got a question over here, Louis, somewhere?
All right, since the moderator already stole my question of asking for more Chewbacca sounds, my backup question, of all the alien races in Star Wars, which is your favorite?
My favorite?
Anyone.
Do you want to start? Which one is your favorite alien race in the Star Wars films?
I have no views.
Let's see. There was something in the Force Awakens that I loved. I loved the little guys that had they looked like mosquitoes in the Force Awakens. I thought they were great. They had long things, long spikes in their head. They look great. I'd love to take one home and feed it liquids.
What would your wife think about that?
I don't know what they eat, but
What would your wife think about that?
She would say what she always says. He's going crazy.
Thank you.
Good question. If you care, I like Arthurians. Arthurians are my favorite. Next question.
You guys kind of touched on it earlier. What do you think the major difference is between the old and the new in production? And how you direct it?
Can you say that again?
Oh, sorry. Can you guys describe the difference between how you played yours and how you played yours in the projection setting?
How did you play your character in a
roles.
projection setting? Do you mean like with the CGI and so forth?
Yeah.
CGI, okay. Do you want me to answer that question?
Yeah.
I had one CGI scene when I was fighting the Battle of Hoth, and you may remember. I then was put into a sort of mock-up of the cabin with a few little controls in front of me on the top of a great gantry, and behind me was a blue screen. And I did that whole sequence, and I had no idea what I was driving until I saw the film. Absolutely true. But I have a little yarn about that. Sitting up there speaking this rubbish, which of course they do speak rubbish in Star Wars films. You may have noticed.
Not true.
We call it gobbledygook. It's sort of futuristic talk. And I was very good at it, and I learned it all except for one phrase, which I simply couldn't remember. And it was at the end of a speech, and I went 16 takes on it It was unbelievable. I mean, it was so stupid. Anyway, and I'm going to tell you what the line was, and you'll understand why I found it so difficult to remember. Ready? Prepare to target the main generator.
That was very well done.
Don't ask. Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. That can happen to an actor. You get to the end of a very difficult bit, and then he deserts you, and you find yourself blah 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 blah. Thank God that the director was very very tolerant. Because I never did it in any other part of the film. It's crazy.
So in the newer films, how much CGI are you doing?
Thankfully, none, because my After Effects skills are not yet that good that I could do any compositing work. But the question you wanted to ask is how many scenes that involved CGI were. Is that to me, I've been lucky because I always judge. I can only say if there's blue screen in the scene or not. You know, that's the thing I can say. And there in these new films, they rarely use the blue screen thing. But that's when we're outside, it's a lot of it because you have to recreate the background and everything. And there's so much available real physical set pieces and walls and grass, and the greens department brings in sand and grass and all kinds of plants, and it's so real that when you're on set, you're stepping into these worlds, and it's really easy to get. But sometimes they do tell you, hey, can you follow this tennis ball with your eyes? And those are the difficult ones, because I'm like, oh, where is that tennis ball? But thank you. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
I went up for a... Ooh, hello.
Yeah, question for you.
Yeah, sure. I was went up for a commercial audition, and I went into this dark, dank basement at the bottom of a building in Soho, London, and there was a girl with a camera, very bored, and a man who was supposed to be the director, very bored, and he said, the thing about this, you're following an aeroplane before you say your line. So, these people. Yes,
One question randomly pulled from the audience, not like I know you, right? What's your name? Okay, and your question is for Joonas, you said? What would you like to ask him?
What is it like working with Porgs?
The Porgs. I love the Porgs. I think they're great. And was I supposed to say that? I don't know.
Oh, it's the kind of secretive you can't really talk about.
Well, I can talk about what was in the trailer. So in the trailer, you see Chewbacca roaring, and then the camera pulls back, and there's a Porg. Sorry, if someone didn't want to see the trailer before the film, I just spoiled something for you. But I think the creature effects department, Neil Scanlon and his team, who started working on The Force Awakens and have made for each Rogue One, Episode 8, The Last Jedi, and the Solo film. They've done 4 films now. They've made so many awesome-looking creatures, such as the insect creature that was my favorite. But I forgot about the Porgs. So, because the Porgs are now in the, I might say the Porgs are one of my favorite creatures that the creature department has made. They're fully real. I haven't seen any, I don't think there's going to be any CG Porgs in the film. Everything you see them do in the film is the result of 5 guys with rods hiding underneath tables, flying flapping wings and doing all kinds of opening their mouths and shutting the eyelids like real animals would behave, and it's so great. And but the question was, how are the Porgs? So I just think they made them too cute, because it's out of people might go, I don't like Chewie anymore. The Porgs are too cute, but hopefully not.
So just going back a little second, you're saying that the Porg in that trailer, and I'm sorry for being spoiled, but yeah, I don't care. But so the pork you see there, that's not CGI, that's an actual puppet in front of you.
Real.
Wow.
As well as Chewie. I know there's people in the internet saying that that's a CG Chewbacca. Well, if that's a CG Chewbacca, then I'm not here.
All right, good.
And I am here, so thank you.
Okay, so what side are we at now? Okay. Yes, sir, we got a couple more minutes.
I have a question for Joseph. How does it feel to fill the literally massive shoes of Peter Mayhew and to become one of the most beloved characters in all of film history?
It feels very humbling. I'm very glad that I got the part, but also I carry it with such respect for what came before, because Julian and others who were making the original films so great and so memorable have done such amazing work, and it's been carried by the fans throughout the decades, and I can just be born after the fact and come join the party is beyond me. I can't even understand how lucky I am to be playing these parts. When I was living with my mother and I didn't have a job, I couldn't have imagined that I was going to be one day playing Chewbacca in the Star Wars films. So very, very humble and very grateful. Thank you.
Yes, hello. Oh, sorry, just want to make sure it can be heard. Joonas, is that you said? Sorry. Just really quickly, it was the Italian Dolomite Mountains, I think it was?
No comment.
I didn't think so. Julian, I don't know how many people here know this, but Julian Glover has been working, I think, 50, 60 years now, I believe.
He's asking you, you've worked 50, 60 years.
And I don't know how many people remember this. He has worked with two doctors on Doctor Who. If anyone has ever seen Doctor Who here. He's worked with the first Doctor and the fourth Doctor, the Crusade and City of Death. And he did a marvelous job in both of them, and I just wanted to ask, in your long career in television, what's the biggest change been since, I want to say 1960s?
Biggest change in what?
Oh, just in how they make...
In how to make films?
Well, I think they shot it on video, like back in 1965, right? Like in a studio, and as opposed to...
Yeah, but what is your question, my dear fellow?
What's the biggest challenge been over your 60-year career in keeping up with all that?
In the span of your whole career, what's been the biggest challenge in television or film to you? What's been the biggest?
Well, it isn't in the cinema or television, it's in the theatre. Because I'm mainly a theatre actor. And I've just been so lucky, I'm talking about lucky, to have been in these. I've been in about 70 films. And I'm really lucky to have fitted that all in, because for instance, I did 16 years solid with the Royal Shakespeare Company at Stratford-on-Avon. And some of those roles are King Lear I played in the year 2001, and that's a real tough nut. And another one was Coriolanus, which is another really difficult part, because he's a non-sympathetic hero. Shakespeare was that good, he made you care about somebody who was absolutely horrible. It's the theatre which has presented the real challenges. But in a film, as long as you keep your head, you can pretty well do anything, because you can always go back and do it again. On the stage, you can't. You blow it on the stage and you've blown it. And so that's why every performance is different, slightly different, and why it's wonderful playing to live audiences whose reactions you depend on. Like at the Globe Theatre in London, which is a reconstruction of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, where people are standing nearer than you. They're there, standing, looking up at you, challenging you to play King Lear. And that's That's the short answer, the long answer to your very simple question.
Well, I'm sorry to say that we're out of time.
Thank you.
So we're going to have to kind of close it down. And gentlemen, I want to thank both of you for coming. This was really fun. And I had a feeling it was going to be, and I was right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Both of you guys will be downstairs for the remainder of the weekend. Thank you very much for coming. Have a good day.